Foreign student enrollment, which now tops 1 million at U.S. colleges and educational training centers, supplies $39 billion in revenue. Enrollment began to flag in 2016 because of changing conditions abroad. Since President Trump was elected, restricted views on immigration have made the U.S. even less attractive to international students. The financial outlook may be dire. Growing uncertainty for international student enrollment stems from immigration policies that are in flux. This definitely undermines U.S. universities. It is a fact of national emergency. There are more than 1 million international students in the U.S., more than in any other country. Of international students, 41.6% were enrolled in STEM fields. Many factors are involved in international students' decision to stay or leave. Career opportunities play an important role in these decisions. International student perception of the U.S. are going more negative, which could increase their chances of leaving. Current immigration policy already provides some pathways for these graduates to work in the U.S. The path to long-term residency can be lengthy, expensive, and uncertain. Slim chances of receiving an H-1B visa and the inability to switch employers without getting a reprieve of the visa contracts with policies that favor STEM immigrants in other countries. STEM graduates also help the U.S. remain one of the most innovative countries in the world. The U.S. risks becoming less innovative if fewer STEM students choose it as a study and work destination. And international students are necessary for conducting basic research. Universities rely on them to attract and retain high-level faculty. Anderson 14. International students are key to supporting research at U.S. universities, which helps retain and attract top faculty. The high-level international students play a role in the university being able to attract and retain faculty, which benefits U.S. students. The advances made by international students and postdocs provide new knowledge and benefits to society. Without high-level research at U.S. universities, many talented individuals will not take or seek faculty positions, leaving U.S. schools far weaker. And innovation from university-based research is vital to long-term economic growth. It creates jobs, increases wages, and cannot be replaced by private sector investment. Atkinson and Stewart 11. In developed economies, innovation powers long-run economic growth. More than 90% of the variation in growth of income per worker was the result of innovation, with differences in the actual amount of human and physical capital accounting for just 9%. Innovation is also positively correlated to job growth. When innovation leads to higher productivity, it also leads to increased wages and lower prices. Even with R&D investment, the private sector alone did not provide the innovative activity that society needs. The university system plays a key role in filling this gap. In order to provide innovation at the social optimum. Recently, university has taken on an even greater role in the American innovation system. Large corporations have shut down research that used to conduct R&D. Today, universities perform 56% of all basic research. Moreover, universities are currently passing on these results to the private sector. University research has large impacts on U.S. economic growth. And economic growth is slow. Only technological innovations from research universities can allow room for necessary reforms. Failure risk and ever-expanding debt to GDP ratio. Dresner 16. The development and spread of technologies in manufacturing directly contribute to faster economic growth. In recent years, the rate of economic growth in developed world has slowed down considerably. Trade will also be less of a driver of economic growth for these countries. The erosion of the trade puts even more pressure on technological innovation to be the engine of economic growth. Growth in labor productivity is mostly a function of technological innovation. Innovation has slowed dramatically. Many of the fields that seem promising for innovation require massive fixed investment. Only research universities can play that kind of game. An obvious counter-argument is that the pace of technological innovation, but the problem is that gains in utility have not been economic. A slow growth economy trajectory also creates policy problems that increase slower growth. Higher growth makes structural reforms easier. In a low growth world, other economies will be reluctant to engage. And slow growth exacerbates all of the world's problems and risk extinction. Haas 13. The biggest challenges facing the U.S. are its burgeoning debt, outdated immigration system, and slow economic growth. America's failures to deal with these internal challenges would come at a steep price. Only the U.S. has the potential to drive global economic recovery. The U.S. remains a unique source of innovations. World-class universities educate a significant percentage of future world leaders. The world faces many serious challenges. These problems will not simply go away or sort themselves out. Order requires the visible hand of leadership to formulate and realize global responses to global challenges. Right now, there's only one candidate for this role, the U.S. The U.S. must put its house in order economically. Plan. The United States federal government should substantially raise the annual limit for employment-based immigrants, eliminate the per-country limits for employment-based immigrants, and exempt the dependence of sponsored immigrants and individuals with graduate degrees in science and engineering fields from the numerical limit. Solvency. The plan sends a signal to potential foreign students that resolves uncertainty. NFAP 7. The world's most talented people come and are told to wait 5 years or more for a green card. This sends a signal that America may not be the place to build your career or raise your family. Given the importance of foreign-born scientists and engineers, failure to solve this problem threatens innovation. The wait inflicts an enormous human cost. This also harms innovation, as those with new ideas cannot go on to start new companies or gain venture capital. Visas may not be available to immigrants from countries with high rates of immigration to the U.S., such as China and India. The current employment-based green card quotas and per-country limit professionals from India or China. Absent significant congressional action, the wait for individuals from particular countries will be extremely long indeed. The backlogs from certain high-volume countries will be eliminated in the near term due to the impact of per-country limits. It may be time to consider eliminating the per-country limit for employment-based immigrants. The goal is by substantially reducing employment-based green card backlogs, then eliminating the per-country limit for skilled employment-based immigrant is likely the best alternative to achieve that result. And, okay. Open for cross-sects?
Wouldn't it be more effective if the U.S. spent time and money on our natives?
No.
If reducing restrictions on legal immigration decreases native enrollment, how is there overall increase in enrollment?
Because more people are going to college.
Yeah, but aren't the natives being disincentivized and their enrollment is decreasing?
No.
How does an influx in immigrants who take native jobs lead to an increase in wages and benefit the economy?
Foreign workers do research at universities that allow corporations to innovate.
Okay, do you think Trump's base would be fine with your plan?
Yes.
If Trump's base has been against immigration and against reducing restrictions for his entire campaign, do you think they would still be fine with your plan?
Yes.
If the immigrants leave their homes to come and innovate in America, what will happen to their native economies?
Nothing.
If our restrictions were reduced and therefore more immigrants would want to come to America, how would backlogs be eliminated completely?
They'd be able to come to our country.
Yeah, but if the restrictions are reduced, even more immigrants would want to come, so how can backlogs be eliminated?
There wouldn't be more immigrants that want to come. It would just be like the immigrants that do want to come would just be able to come in.
But if they know that the restrictions are less and that it's going to be easier to get into America, you don't think logically more people would want to come?
Well, then we have more immigrants. That's good.
And you're saying we would have more immigrants wanting to come, so wouldn't there still be a backlog in the system? And wouldn't your plan not solve backlog?
It would solve that.
Oh, can I ask?
Yeah.
So you stated how that there will be nothing happening to the native economy, right? But however, these people are leaving their, like, all these high-skilled immigrants and all of these, like, super intelligent people are leaving their local to come to the United States. So that their country are losing people, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, like, is it true that, like, when a country doesn't have enough, as you stated in your case, that, like, our universities need these people to, like, have more innovation, but, like, these people are leaving their native countries. Doesn't that mean, like, their native countries also, like, will lose innovation because, like, they are losing people?
They will not lose innovation.
Because they are losing people, right?
They're losing people, but they're not losing innovation.
But if all their students who are the ones creating things and innovating are leaving to come to the U.S., wouldn't the other countries besides America suffer?
No.
How would they not suffer if the people who create innovation are leaving?
People come to the U.S. to get education, and then they help innovate here, and that helps boost the global economy.
But it helps boost. So how is it boosting global economy? If it's
Like, what are the steps that are that like you can show in your case that by boosting the U.S. economy that will boost the global economy?
It doesn't matter because we're just.
No, we can. Do you have evidence for that? Because if you don't, like, it's not true.
So you're saying global economy doesn't matter, just American economy?
No, global economy does matter, but boosting the American economy will in turn boost the global economy.
I'm gonna use 2 minutes of press time, and Actually, I want to send you guys another flyer, but that was like the wrong flyer.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. You guys get it? Okay.
Wait, can you forward it to,
I am free now. You guys need a roadmap?
Yeah, actually.
Okay, so for this speech, I'm gonna be first do a top K, and then I'm gonna go to wages DA, and then I'm gonna go down to my CP.
wait, so cap K?
Yes, cap K. DA, base DA. And then I'm gonna go to my counterplan, and then I'm gonna go to my case.
Okay.
Yeah. Everyone ready? Everyone ready? Okay. Ready? Okay. So my time starts now. Critical academics needs a different non-nationalist starting point for emancipate project. The starting point is uniquely important. 10.7. The starting point for academics needs to be confront the deep nationalism of U.S. higher education, academic freedom, the base political social purpose of U.S. education need to question and reject this nationalism altogether. Nationalism can be progressive and liberating. The task is an alternative and preferable version of national public good, national security, and national interest. There's conflicting in seeing global-minded work while based in institutions devoted explicitly to serving U.S. national good. How can we invite foreign scholars and students into our colleges and demand they serve Americans before all others? U.S. higher education defines things explicitly in terms of protecting American economic prosperity, but come at the expense of the environment and the rest of the world's peoples. Academics needs to reject the word passed first and always through the prism of American national interest, on the principle to a public good, not nationally but globally. Judge, this first of all reject all what my opponents said in their case, because they're talking about how like these immigrants will come to the United States. That means like first of all they're leaving their country and draining the draining like the resources from their country. And then also it's helping the U.S. like they're basically their whole case is based on the U.S. nationalism and that everyone should put U.S. in front of others, and that does not work as I've just stated in my campaign or like in the tenant card. And then I'm gonna go to my base DA. Trump base supporting is solid and growing, and also Trump's strategy for securing the base is securing the border. His anti-immigrant stance continues to generate overwhelming support among Republican voters. Mellon 2018. Trump intends to make immigration a central issue in this year's elections. Analysis see Trump pivot from backing down family separation to focusing on border security aimed at firing up his political base. They're only concerned about their base, and the base that they have is strongly anti-immigration. Post-Joe Trump remains popular among Republican voters. And loss of core supports causes Trump to lash out with nuclear weapons. Street 2016. Policies that disappoint his supporters would increase the possibility of the U.S. engaging in a diversionary war. Tensions then quickly re-emerge. domestic political dynamics under the Trump presidency might drive Washington behavior internationally. If Trump does not satisfy his supporters, then this will likely pour fuel on the flames at home, which may quickly spread abroad. The next president will find themselves with a range of extremely powerful tools at their disposal, including nuclear weapons, which may prove too tempting to resist when figuring out how to respond to widespread anger at home. Counterplan: the U.S. federal government should create a temporary residency program for employment-based immigrants and their dependents if the applicant has a graduate degree in science or engineering fields, but it's temporary. Convention 1, competition. The CP competes and its non-topical legal immigration refers to permanent residency, which the CP does not allow, and the 1AC must. Term 4. Legal immigration is defined as a person lawfully admitted to permanent residency in the U.S. 3 classes of immigrants: family, employment, and diversity. Net under immigration is defined as persons who do not meet the above definition of legal immigration. Includes all authorized persons and those not seeking permanent residency. The CP casts legal immigration forcing the affirmative to defend permanent residency allows more detailed discussion for policy minutiae crucial to the immigration process. Permanent and non-permanent status are mutually exclusive. Any permutation either serves the 1AC advocacy or doesn't resolve the net benefit. Contention 2, the CP resolves the case and avoids politics. Temporary programs avoid base backlash while solving the case temporary status, reduce nativist opposition, and creates a viable compromise. Failure 17. Citizens unaccepting of global migrants. Trump's border wall with Mexico, rise of anti-immigration populist parties, plight of Syrian refugees, and the rich world's reluctance to accept them demonstrates how migration from developing world to mature democracies is unwelcome. Islamophobia, xenophobia, authoritarianism, socioeconomic and intergenerational immobility, income and wealth inequality, unconsenting to migration-based political and cultural changes. Rich countries' obligation to substantially increase admission that avoids a political backlash or causes an upstick in social dislocation and nativism, continue to treat asylum and immigration as a form of immigration. Unfettered migration from permanent residency and eventually neutralization by means of substantially expand temporary residency program. Policy addresses the concerns of conservatives who became the cultural and political consequences of permanent international migration, and it strengthens the position of liberals who argue for humanitarian admission. Trump addresses supporters' concerns and provide a far better alternative to status quo by adopting policies designed to encourage greater acceptance of migrants in conjunction with stricter border and immigration enforcement. And 2, the CP is sufficient to solve the case, even if the plan is better for immigrants. Temporary status allows access to all citizen employment benefits necessary to solve the case. And now I'm going to my case. The economy is growing at unprecedented rates now. In number 18, the U.S. economy grew 13 to 4.1%, double the first quarter rate, strongest pace in 4 years. Biggest boost in the standard of living for many Americans, with higher wages and better public service as the government ranked in more tax dollars from booming economy. When we're seeing the Trump economy, its wages going up for the first time in a long time. We're seeing unemployment going down to levels we haven't seen in the 1990s, since the 1990s. This is a strong economy. The president's economic policies are succeeding. Third, the plan creates an internal brain drain that encourages capable native students from entering research fields. The result is a net decrease in innovation. Math Law 13. The proponents of expensive policy for foreign tech workers contend that those hired from American campuses are often the best and brightest, and those are key to industry ability to compete on the world stage. The U.S. should indeed welcome the immigration of the world's best brains. Compared to Americans of the same education and age, the foreign students turn out to be weaker than, or most comparable to the Americans in terms of salary, patent applications, PhD dissertation awards, and quality of the doctoral program in which they studied. Work in research and development, the industry has emphasized that it needs foreign workers in order to keep its innovative edge over other countries. Yet, the data shows that the former foreign students are significantly less likely to work in R&D than Americans. H-1B and related programs are not raising U.S. levels of talent and innovation in the tech fields and are reducing them. The H-1B and green cards program have been causing an intellectual brain drain of tech talents in the U.S., squeezing out U.S. citizens and permanent residents from the field and make the field unattractive to the country's most talented young domestic students. The internal brain drain suggests that the foreign tech workers programs should be reduced in scope. And then that's why we should not lower restrictions on immigration. And also, I'm going to go to review my opponent's case. So in my opponent's case, my opponent stated how that one, immigrations are bringing in more revenue, which is like $39 billion. And then they talk about how like it will also like increase STEM faculty because like we need more immigration, we need more people in the field. But Judge, RCP solves all of these things because like RCP guarantees citizenship and all of these benefits, but also it will not end up in. It will like allow us to avoid the impact of Trump lash out and creating like a diversionary war, and which might become like a nuclear war, Judge. And that's a far bigger impact on the economy because, Judge, lives are over the economy. If you don't have lives, all the economy won't matter. And for all these reasons, I urge you to strongly vote for the negation side. And now I'm open for process.
So you said restrictions on immigration. Wait, no, that's Trump support is solid and growing, but so you said that my plan is going to make Trump's base upset, but like, what could he do if his base was upset?
So during the Trump's whole campaign, immigration is the biggest issue that Trump is winning on, and this is a big issue why his base is supporting them and supporting him. And then if Trump like decided to like, well, we're gonna like lose up the restrictions on immigration, like it's going against all of his base supporters. And then that means like his base will not support him because like he failed on his promises. And also that means that but like Trump, he needs his base supports. So like what is the bigger issue than immigration? Then
You
it's
said
a
that Trump's
diversionary
going to
war.
cause a diversionary war,
Diversionary war.
but
Yes.
how could he do that without military support?
Trump does not need military support because he's the president. He has the power to call on war.
So you're saying that Trump literally has a button and he could just press that would send nukes around the world?
The AUMF
Doesn't
allows
he need like somebody
to,
from the military to approve it?
Sure, he might need people. There could be people that can improve it, but he overall has the final say and the power. And even if there are people in place who can bypass him, there's no saying that he might just bypass them as well and start.
And also, like the military support is not like vital thing here because Trump is like their leader, and then like it's like this order that they have to follow as militaries, or else they're like breaking laws. They're like not following their like their captain's order. And that's why like if Trump says there's gonna be a war somewhere, like I don't know if they Iran war, like or like a war in China, which like we were starting with a trade war, then like it's possible because like he does not need a military support. He can just order them and they have to follow.
So you're saying that Trump can completely bypass the whole
It's
military
not bypass,
system?
it is his power as long as he's a president.
And we're saying there's probability that.
And the probability is like really high
So
for Trump to start a war.
like the whole military can't stop Trump?
No, because he is their captain and they have to follow his orders, or else like they're not people of being they're not like acting as the military are supposed to act.
So the military is literally just Trump's like.
No, military is not Trump's, but military is the president's. It's under the president's control because the
Yeah, so
president is the executive
it
branch.
belongs to Trump. So Trump can do whatever he wants with the military whenever he wants.
In theory, yes. However, normally he won't do it because like it has some cost. However, if his base is not supporting him, then he would like want to use the military and have a diversionary war to get his base supports back, and then
So, but you're still saying that Trump can literally just send a nuke whenever he wants to.
yes.
Yeah.
Take 1 minute for
Do you know what? Do you know which doc has the internal revenue and like
Faster, consistent growth is the only way to outpace otherwise inevitable environmental limits that will cause extinction. Wilski 18. We need to constantly rejuvenate our economy to ensure that a sustained supply of new products and bringing novelty, we will have to innovate our way out of the problem. We will live in an era where knowledge is the main means of production, and consumption and production will lead to wealth. Economic growth becomes limitless as production increases. Without growth, our civilization simply cannot exist. And the profit motive sustains green development as opposed to the destruction of socialist states in all 17. Land in pristine condition will allow the owner to profit from it indefinitely. Laying waste to it would be like slaying a goose which lays golden eggs for a single dinner. Those with the knowledge of how to stress limited resources are the most likely to acquire them. The most environmentally friendly way to produce something also becomes the cheapest. Memories safely invented by capitalists have saved billions of trees. And capitalism is the only economic system which can solve climate change. Businesses are already taking steps on increasing profits. Conference rooms in Paris are not where action seems climate change really is. And temporary status alone is insufficient to solve any massive delays and multi-million jobs in innovation. PhD 18. The U.S. admitted hundreds of thousands of foreign students and engineers on temporary visas but did not have the fortitude to expand the numbers of green cards. The waiting time for permanent resident visas began to exceed 2 years for Indian and Chinese immigrants, some beginning to turn home. The government will constantly expand the number of H-1B visas in response to the demands of business but never the number of green cards. For students, the prospect of returning home and working for a hot company is far more enticing than working for an American company. Delays in visa processing may lock them into a menial position for at least a decade during the most productive parts of their career. And temporary status will cause job and discourage migration to the U.S. Fellow 17. Many Indians have long been a pillar of the U.S. hospitals, tech firms, and engineering efforts are reconsidering their options. The permanent legal status of many Indians has become far more uncertain. Since Trump's, the number of Indian-born residents in the U.S. searching for jobs back in India has climbed more than tenfold. This year, the number of people applying for H-1B dropped for the first time in 4 years. The policies and outcomes have discouraged both undergraduate and graduate students from India who would like to study science and engineering in the U.S. Why would students come here if the path to a long-term career doesn't exist? Getting a work visa hasn't guaranteed stability. Employers can sponsor immigrants' green cards, but the approval process is backlogged. The federal government places caps for green cards on the country each year. Indians seeking permanent residency say it's routine for them to linger in line for a decade or more. Up to 2 million Indian workers here and abroad may be waiting in a green card backlog that could take a decade or more to clear if there is no changes in the system. Those concerns may add to the shortage of highly skilled technology workers in the U.S., just as Canada or Singapore, but for those people. And only permanent status harnesses full economic potential of immigration, paragraph on page 16. Immigrants have a long-driven innovation growth. Yet, despite immigrants' long history, economic contributions of today's U.S.-educated foreign-born students are stifled by an outdated immigration system. The temporary nature limits international students' ability to work after they have obtained their degrees. Many return to their countries of origin and possibly compete with their U.S.-based peers. Only one group, lawful permanent residents, are fully putting their college educations to work in the U.S. economy. Their successes illustrate the potential to maximize the economic contributions of all foreign-born students through immigration reform. And green card status is key to avoid backlog. NFAB, evidence from North AC. We need green cards because the current temporary H-1B program has backlogs for 5 years. We must eliminate the cap and give green cards as that removes the amount of time necessary to review each immigration case and the app makes it easier and faster to process immigrants. Executive action will be held on both sides. Some fear the president looking at ways to skirt Congress and address immigrants through other channels. 17 groups expressed concerns. The president would legalize immigrants without the approval of Congress. The memo's purpose is described as offering administrative relief options to Senators also raised the issue of parent abuse towers. It looks, you have the administration grabbing more authority than they really deserve. Non-union. Demographics means that native enrollment will inevitably decline. Retaining foreign students is key to university revenue. Regarding 14. The number of international students present at a university make a significant contribution. Although many universities without the benefit of international students at the university degree, there exists the underlying fact that in the future there will be a decline demographically in the number of U.S. domestic students. Universities are therefore seeking to offset this decline by growing internationally to maintain enrollment. And foreign students don't crowd out domestic talent. They increase programs as regard to 14. International students in PhD programs in technology do not outperform domestic students in terms of dissertation awards and patent applications. International students come to study with the best domestic minds rather than to replace. The addition of bright international students in advanced studies both enhances the program and provides much needed funding. And failure to retain foreign students will lead to the budgetary collapse of many college programs. Regard to 14. Immigrants also have a positive effect on the quality of STEM programs and the capacity for more domestic students. Bringing us to example 13. Foreign students offset declines in educational funding. Absent their presence, universities would be forced to raise tuition or to decrease per student spending. Found at now 16. The effect is also small and likely optimizes innovation. Going into 13. The results suggest that non-Hispanic whites are less likely to major in STEM field, the higher the immigration share. Immigration may raise the bar in STEM fields, increase the selectivity of natives into STEM majors, and ultimately have a positive effect on innovation. If foreign students are on average better at STEM fields and therefore more likely to major in those fields, this frees up natives to pursue other careers. Even if the economy is doing fine now, it's not sustainable without increased immigration. It wouldn't be surprising if the U.S. economy continued to grow aggressively. Unemployment is near historic lows. Yet, all these signs of economic strength mask fundamental realities that mustn't be ignored. The current economic expansion is much nearer than it seems. You'll see economic warning signs everywhere. Its recession is probably coming sooner than you think. A familiar sign that we're at the winning stage of the growing season is that the economy is overheating. Over the process.
So what's going to have to pull it out? Simple? I'm sorry. You're gonna send it. There's something else now.
Our first speaker proved that the U.S. economy is growing, but then you said there's a loss in international students, so doesn't that clearly prove that international students don't lead to economic growth? But if we're losing students at the same time the economy is growing, doesn't that mean there's no relation?
Are you losing domestic or international students?
We're losing international students. As you said, we're losing international students. We proved that the American economy is growing and getting better. So doesn't that prove
also in your case, you stated the first time that the capitalism is so country. I just didn't hear that part.
You also said that the path to long-term career doesn't exist for international students, but can't they just have a long-term career when they go back to their native countries as the temporary CP suggests?
Well, they're trying to work here to help, like, because working here is infinitely better than working in their own economies.
Why?
Because America has one of the best economies, and
But then like
working here
the
is
old,
good for you.
then what about their own economies, their own country's economies? If they're like all coming here to the United States to work, then like their own economies don't have any more people because like the US
So
economy is the best
putting other
economy.
economies over the US economy.
You're saying we should risk our own for other countries?
No, I'm saying that, I'm just asking you like, aren't these people like, if all these people leave their own country, then their country are not going to grow because like they don't have people. Like,
We're not talking about
logically,
other countries, we're talking about ours.
So do you think that people should continue, international students, do you think it's okay for them to continue to leave their countries and then just come help advance and innovate America and have America innovative and a good economy and the rest of the economy suffer?
Yes.
oh,
So you don't care about the global economy?
you only care about US
Doesn't
economy.
matter.
Okay.
Boosting our economy will boost global economy.
But
Oh.
America comes first, because if our economy is suffering, then the whole world's economy suffers.
But don't you agree that the temporary CP can have everyone, every economy do good because the people can come here and learn and boost our economy, then go back to their countries and boost their economy at the same time?
No.
Process slower.
Oh, I still don't get your doc though. I don't know, I mean like, I still don't get the doc you just sent me because like you guys use new evidence and then I can get the doc with new evidence. I know, I just don't, can you guys check maybe? If it is like. Last week's check. Hey, by the way,
Send them this, because I'm ready to use this.
what, no, we're gonna send that very end before we go. You're not, you haven't prepped them. You're gonna use 2 minutes of prep them. So our prep time starts now, and
Okay, we're gonna get 2 minutes for a pen.
yeah. And then. Yeah, which prep we do, and,
first, I'm just gonna refute their points, just go over their case, and I'm gonna talk about the temporary CP and talk about our national CP. So their first point was that there's innovation, and we have a lot of international students, which overall is like worse for the economy and worse for innovation. But our first speaker proved that the economy has been steadily growing, and unemployment has been the lowest it has been for 28 years. So if the economy is growing, and they didn't refute that, if the economy is continuing to grow at the same time as we're losing international students, doesn't that clearly prove that the economy is growing not because of international students, but because of other factors in the U.S.? They say international students are essential, but once again, we just proved that they're not. And even if they are and so we should try to focus on our native people here and native enrollment, and instead of spending time and money to try to get immigrants to the U.S. and change legislation, we should just focus on the natives here and educating them. They say that innovation increases jobs and economic growth. We agree, innovation does increase jobs and economic growth, but their plan doesn't create that, and their plan doesn't solve for that because immigrants don't bring innovation. They say universities rely on international students, and a slow growth leads to a catastrophe. If a slow growth leads to a catastrophe, this is exactly why the temporary CP is better than their plan. Because think about it, our temporary CP means people would stay here for a little bit, they would learn, and then they would go back to their countries. That would be much faster. So then they would go back to their countries, and since slow growth leads to a catastrophe, it would take so much longer to get people to America and then educate them and then have them start their careers than just educating people who are already here. So slow growth leads to catastrophe, as they put it. We agree. So we want fast growth, and the fastest way to do that is by educating our natives here, not trying to change everything and change policies to get immigrants over here, then to educate them. They say backlogs will be eliminated. Backlogs can't be eliminated under their plan because they're just reducing restrictions, and more. They agreed with me in this cross-ex. More immigrants are going to come. More immigrants are going to want to come. If it's easier if it's easier for them to get here, of course they're going to want to come. There's going to be less tension, so more people are going to want to come, which would create more tension and more backlogs. They say that American first and the American economy is better, is more important to solve for than all the other economies. But we believe that if we can help save American economy and the global economy, if we can help save American, the country of America and all other countries, that's what we should do. We want what's best for the most people, what's best for everyone, not just what's best for America. They refuted our CAPK by saying capitalism. We didn't bring up capitalism. We were talking about nationalism and how people, by having them being permanent and not going back to save their own countries, it's basically showing them that America is more important, and we believe that's inherent in our case and that shouldn't be through. They also say that the path to long-term career doesn't exist, but it can exist. They would just go back to their countries and live out their career there. Now I'm just going to talk about our temporary CP. So the temporary CP is just basically saying that temporary residence would be a viable compromise. Because think about it, it's better for the conservatives, because the conservatives won't be mad because of political and cultural consequences of naturalization, and the liberals would be happy because we're fulfilling our humanitarian obligation. So it's better for both sides. And if we have our temporary CP, we can not only help America, because let's say immigrants do increase innovation. They don't. Let's say they do. Then if they come here, they can learn and they can create patents and they can innovate while they're here. And then not only that, once their temporary residence is up, they can go back to their countries and keep doing the same thing in their countries. So not only do we help Americans innovate, but we help the rest of the world. And also, temporary CP reduces backlogs, because if people are coming in and they have to leave at a certain time, that will be more space for more people. So if they actually cared about eliminating backlogs, they would agree with the temporary CP. And they completely dropped our base DA, which would probably be the most important thing in this debate. Our base DA was basically saying that Trump's entire campaign, the main thing he was focusing on is restrictions on the border and illegal immigration. And if he reduces restrictions, his base will get upset, his base will be angry, and he will need to do something to distract them from the biggest thing that happens in his campaign. And that has a probability of leading to a nuclear war. They're saying, oh, what are the policies? What are the policies where he can't do that? Even if there are policies out there that might be able to stop him, we still don't want this possibility to be anywhere near the future. Because the temporary, reducing restrictions, which is the affirmations plan, will lead to an angry base, which will lead to Trump having to lash out and having to distract his base with a nuclear war. The temporary CP completely bypasses that nuclear war and completely bypasses all those lives lost, because the conservatives and the base will be happy because they'll know those people are going to be going back to their countries and they're not going to be staying here forever. They also said that enrollment will decline, but yes, if we don't reduce restrictions, international student enrollment might decline, but overall enrollment for natives and everyone in general declines if we keep the affirmations plan, because immigrants crowd out and create a disincentive for native enrollments in STEM fields, because natives have more difficulty getting into necessary introductory math and science classes their first year of college as the number of foreign-born college students increases. Natives become more likely to major in other disciplines as a result. So instead of our native people, the people who live in America, going to math and science and innovating and creating things for our economy and for our society, they're going to go into other things like psychology or maybe health, and they won't be innovating as many things. So their plan doesn't solve their first point, which is innovation, because having more immigrants, they didn't prove how it leads to innovation, because it doesn't, and it doesn't solve for it doesn't solve for the slow growth. Like, it doesn't make the economy grow faster, because the economy is already growing as the international students leave, and but our temporary CP solves for both those things, because more immigrants, it will increase the number of international students because the backlog will be less and the economy can grow faster. And I think the very important thing in this debate is how nuclear war can be on the horizon, and in order to bypass that, in order to stop that nuclear war, we must implement the temporary CP, and I would like to point out that both their speakers completely dropped that and didn't mention that at all, when it's very important, because we have to think about what is more important. Like, the economy that might have a chance to grow because of more students, even though it doesn't, as we've proven, and like more international students and more enrollment, or the lives of the planet. We already have enough nukes right now in single places to blow up entire continents. So if we think about it, we should always put lives over money. We should always put the lives of the people over the economy. The affirmation only cares about America and only cares about the American economy. But if you implement the temporary CP, not only can we save lives by bypassing a diversionary war, like a nuclear war, but we can also save the economy of the whole globe, because students will be able to come here, innovate, and then go back to their countries and innovate there as well. They say that American economy comes first, but just because even if America comes first, that doesn't mean that the rest of the world shouldn't matter, because it should, because even if they just help America, the temporary CP still helps America and the rest of the world. Once again, temporary CP is just a viable compromise, and they completely dropped the base TA, which is why you should vote for the negation dynasty. Open for comment.
So how would getting into a nuclear war make Trump's base happy?
It's not about appeasing Trump's base. It's about distracting Trump's base. So
why would they be happy or distracted by him creating a nuclear war?
Because usually when there's a nuclear war and a threat to your life, you might be more distracted than a change in an immigration law.
Wouldn't that make Trump's base even more upset?
It might make them more upset, but it will definitely make them more distracted, which would be his point, diversionary. Because the point of the nuclear war is to distract them from him completely skirting around his campaign.
You're saying that it'll distract him from letting in more immigrants, but he's letting in merit-based immigrants.
He's letting in what?
That's not what this debate is arguing about. This debate is about
They're going to let in high school immigrants.
however,
Okay, yeah, we're letting in those immigrants, and it still has the same impact
Yeah,
on debate.
they're against legal immigrants, and
So,
can you explain how letting in high merit-based immigration would make them mad?
What do you mean high?
so currently the Trump's base is already kind of mad, but since Trump is only keeping the status quo instead of changing it completely, they're still okay with it. But then if Trump ended up doing what you guys said, which is that actually lowering the restrictions on immigration and letting in more immigration into the country, then all those the Trump's base,
So what
which
does
are
Trump's
composed
base
by
actually
nativists
want?
and other strong only nationalist.
Do they want,
Wait.
do they just not want immigration at all?
Okay, Trump's base wants a lot of things, but the main thing that they have voted for Trump for, and the main thing they've been pushing throughout his entire campaign, is like immigration, and is securing borders, and is like restrictions.
So Trump's base doesn't want any immigration, not even merit-based immigration?
They might want, yeah, we agree.
They,
Yeah.
however, so like keeping the status quo is already like annoying there. Therefore, like you know, make reducing restrictions will even like anger them much more. And we have evidence, and our evidence has shown that like reducing the restriction will be the last straw to kill the camel, and it will be the last straw for like
And
Trump's base to
temporary
leave Trump.
visas isn't going to upset Trump's base.
No,
No.
because at least it's a
Because it's
because it's a compromise. Because
It's a
while the people, the immigrants come here, the Trump's base will know that they're not going to stay here, and they're not going to stay here. They're going to go back.
But like they
from
still
what
get a
you say,
citizenship for
Trump's
like
base is already irrational. So what makes you think that they're going to be rational and think that they're going to leave?
We're not saying Trump's base is irrational. What we're saying is
Yeah,
that
sorry,
Trump's
you never
base
said that.
is against like reducing restrictions on legal immigration, which is what your affirmative case is trying to do.
So do you think Trump's base would be okay with merit-based immigration?
First of all, it never brought up about merit-based immigration in the first few speeches, so like
But
you can say that.
merit-based immigration is what high-skilled immigration is.
Based on the application.
Okay, then like if merit-based immigration is high-speed immigration, then Trump's base would not be
Trump's
happy
base
about it.
like that though?
They would not.
Because
Why?
why would Trump's base like merit?
Because you guys are talking about permanent immigrants, and then we're talking about temporary immigrants, and Trump's base will definitely not support permanent immigrants.
Trump's base won't be fine with any immigrants who are staying here permanently.
No, they're just not fine with lazy immigrants who stay here permanently.
No,
Why would
they,
they
you
be
don't
happy
have
with
evidence
immigrants
for
who
that.
work in the US?
Well, we have
they
evidence
wouldn't be
about how
happy with
Trump's base
immigrants who
will not
work in
have
the
immigrants
US because those immigrants they believe that those immigrants are taking their jobs, which is what they believe, which is why they're against immigration.
So Trump's base is against all types of immigration, like anywhere from any type of people.
Trump's base is against, you can't say all immigration ever because that's very broad, but from what we know from Trump's campaign, Trump's campaign was pushing like immigration for people who come here to work, and that's what Trump's base voted for him off of, so we can assume it's that.
So they just don't like immigration.
Yeah. Or permanent immigration.
Oh, I think that's the time stop. Yeah.
sent the whole thing?
No, I sent an email.
Yes, so.
That's the one card I'm gonna be adding up. Adding a movie using like the, basically the NCKs and like the, like basically the stuff we already sent you guys before. Ready? Just ready? My time starts now. So in this speech, I'm gonna review my opponent's case and then extend what my partner just said and weigh the impacts. So my opponent stated in their in their QAC about how there are more people wanting to come to America, and then but currently my opponent talked about how like capitalism is solving climate change. However, Judge, according to Mingbot, MAZ Zoology 16, neoliberal ideology, which is also capitalism, has greatly exacerbated the predicament of both people and the planet, reversed many of the gains in human-spread financial crisis, and enriched the ultra-wealthy at the expense of the rest. At the same time, it has accelerated the environmental crisis and constrained options for responding to it. So Judge, this is a response to what my opponents said in their QAC about how capitalism will solve climate change. And my card clearly proves how capitalism is actually the main thing of why we have climate change, instead of like the main thing that we are using to solve climate change. Therefore, that part of their case does not stand. And then moving on to their immigration, my opponent talked about how like currently in the U.S. we don't have enough native domestic students, and that is why we need immigrants to fulfill up these spaces and to help the U.S. colleges to have more innovation. However, my partner stated in her QNC speech about how that, first of all, the immigrants are the reasons that we currently, domestically, do not have enough students. Because the reason is that immigrants create a negative perception that drives away native students, according to Ernest and Zoltani in 13. The high concentration of immigrants in the STEM fields may affect nativists' willingness to major in STEM fields, even if labor market outcomes, educational opportunities, and natives' academic preparations do not change as a result of immigration. So Judge, so immigration is the reason why our country and the U.S. students are not majoring in STEM and working in STEM fields, because they're getting the negative perception, and then they're driven away by immigration. So in terms of this, immigration is actually not helping our economy, but actually driving our students away from important fields. And think about it, Judge. These immigrants, like once if they decide to go back to their country, then our country will have a huge gap in STEM field. While actually without immigration, we will have enough students and people who have the same skills and the same smartness in the fields and helping our country. Plus, we don't have to go through all these to make all these congressional laws and reduce all these restrictions for immigrants. While we can just educate our own students in our own country, Judge. And also, I'm gonna go into my Cap K, which is about how like the U.S. education is fueled up by nationalism. So in my Cap K, we talked about how that currently, we talked about how the U.S. higher education is fulfilled up by this nationalism that U.S. As a whole should be the leader, and then everyone else who comes to the U.S. should put U.S. At their best interest and regard of the rest of the world's purposes, and that how the U.S. economic growth is actually based on at the expense of the environment and the rest of the world's peoples. And then, Judge, during cross-ex, we asked my opponent about how that, do you care about the global economy? And they said, no, Judge. And they said that they only care about the U.S., which is exactly what I was talking about in my campaign, which is that like the U.S. education is putting us in front of everyone else in the global, on the globe, and then we're harming the global economy to boost the U.S. economy. Judge, while in our CP, our CP will completely solve the problem by providing a temporary citizenship to like the people who want to come to the U.S. to study, and then they can go back, they can go back to their own countries and help to boost their own countries. While like the domestic students can still major in these STEM fields and help to boost our economy. So we get a win-win situation. Well, if we do what my opponent suggested, which is to reduce restrictions for permanent immigration, though you're actually getting a lose-lose situation. You're harming the global economy, and then we're not educating our own students. And then we're also harming the economy. And then, I think I got like 30 next 30 seconds more. I'm going to do my
Don't, sure.
Five. Wait,
Yeah. 30 seconds more.
that says 5:20. So.
So I think it doesn't mean you have 30 seconds.
So can I go?
No.
No.
It's 5-minute speech, right?
No, it's 6.
No, it's 5.
That's fine. Okay, well. Yeah, no.
developments mean that native enrollment will inevitably decline. Retaining foreign students is key to university revenue. Headguard 14. Number of international students present at a university makes a significant contribution. Although many universities will tout the benefits of international students and the diversity they bring, there exists an underlying fact that in the future there will be a decline demographically in the number of U.S. domestic students. Universities are therefore seeking to offset this decline by exploring internationally to maintain enrollment. First, just because Trump's base does not like the plan does not mean we should not pass the act. The dissent does not say the plan itself is bad, just that the plan is not liked by Republicans. Rejecting the plan because it is something conservatives wouldn't like is problematic and will lead to a spillover effect, where positive legislation is never talked about because people are worried about the perception of conservatives. Republicans get mad about illegal immigration, not high-skilled immigration. No reason why the act would be hated. Republicans will change their disposition to love the plan in Trump. Are people conservative because they're Republican, or Republican because they're conservative? Trump defies ideological categorization while being the leader of a major political party. In 2014, just 10% of Republicans had a favorable view of Putin. Today, 37%. This period coincides with the rise of Trump. The Republicans rooted in partisan loyalty rather than thoughtful ideological change. Republican support for free trade has similarly declined. Loyalists are unswervingly loyal to their party. Loyalists take the party line on all questions regardless of whatever their position might be. Trump regularly takes multiple positions on multiple issues. Republicans accept liberal policy as a new position of their party, or do they stick to their ideologically conservative guns? The findings of the paper are when told Trump supports a liberal policy, Republicans are substantially more likely to also endorse this policy, compared to the same question with no mention of Trump's position. People react just as we would expect partisan loyalists to react. And conservative media echo chamber guarantees Trump controls spin to maintain base support. Even though the plan would be theoretically imposed by the base, Trump will use the media to make it favorable for the base. Conservatives cocoon themselves in a bubble of dishonesty and resentment. A closed media destructive of American democratic norms. The right has become an echo chamber in which blatant untruths are repeated until no one dares question them. One of the defining tactics of his campaign was disinformation coupled with the accusations of the same against the media. That hasn't changed now that Trump is president. And Trump will lash out on Twitter, not using nuclear weapons. Mad and economic interdependence check conflict. Advisors check unilateral strikes. They'll step in and stop him, and military ignores the order. Fever. The steps the president would have to take in order to pass a nuclear order to someone who would physically launch the missile would simultaneously alert the rest of the national security team. Efforts to bypass his senior leadership would further alarm subordinates, increasing the likelihood that they would draw on the rest of the national security team. The military is trained to reject illegal orders, and the president trying to order the military to go from peacetime to nuclear war without consulting his national security advisor would set off alarms up and down the system about whether or not the orders were illegal. The president doesn't need many others to help him fire off a nuclear intercontinental ballistic missile. It would take an enormous effort of persuasion that would involve many more people that are involved in a streamlined launch under attack scenario. A rogue president would find it exceedingly hard to persuade the military to act in preventative war scenarios as rapidly as they are trained to act in launch under attack scenarios. Presidents find it challenging to persuade the military to embrace policies that the military objects to. And the act prevents the disadvantage from occurring. Through increasing high-skilled immigrants, we improve the economy, and Trump's base would be happy about the economy, keeping them with Trump. So, on to framework. Framework is how you should evaluate the judge. This year's topic is about improving the current immigration system. If you think that the plan does that, then you should vote for the act, regardless of whether or not we are capitalists. Debate should focus on the pragmatic interim goals to improve immigration. Rennick's J.D. Harvard 17. The left believes that immigration is inherently good. Our goal should be to ensure that anybody who wants to come to the U.S. and live and work peacefully should be allowed. We certainly can't arrive at a more open immigration system overnight. Given how messed up our immigration system is, it's worth time to devote our tinkering with the laws. On to the permutation. Even if capitalism is a flawed system, we can reform it. But the alternative of stepping back and questioning it isn't the way to do it. You should vote for the act because our plan helps immigrants in need, and only legislation can resolve the flaws in capitalism. The either-or lens fails. We can reform capitalism to avoid the worst impact. Rach J.D. Yale 09. We like to blame corporations, but we've made this compact with ourselves. Instead of finding ways to soften the blows of globalization, we go to battle. But citizens live in democratic nations have the ability to alter the rules of the game. The problem with their critique is that they don't have a legitimate alternative to the current system of capitalism. Every other alternative to capitalism has failed us. History is on our side. Don't buy their denials. The alt produces atrocity. Stephens, M.A., 10/27/17. The progressive social commitment to this catastrophic economic results is short and straight, an ideological one that at one point enslaved and immersed roughly a third of the world collapsed without a fight and was exposed for all to see. We treat it as sympathizers, as romantic and idealists rather than as the fools, fanatics, or cynics they really were and are. And judge, finally, capitalism is good. It allows for our economy to prosper, for us to have higher standards of living, and the only way we can even have this debate is through capitalism. We get our laptop, food, pens, paper, clothes, through a system of globalization that benefits everyone. U.S. neoliberalist leadership is key to global peace, prosperity. Alternatives are worse. of Commerce 16.
How many minutes do we have left of time?
I don't know.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so
think we have 3 minutes left.
we just use like a minute.
I think it's possible that you have 2 minutes left.
Oh.
That's probably the best part.
Then we'll just use 2 minutes.
Yes, and we can see it.
So 5 minutes, yeah?
Are you guys using cards?
No. I mean, I
Yeah,
use the cards
I think,
before.
yeah,
Use
you
it
already have it, like extensions.
Which ones are you using?
Here,
You guys should
immigrants
send
crowd
me
out and create a disincentive for native enrollment in STEM fields, or NES and Zamani 13. I might just bring it up.
Okay.
It's in high school immigration after this name. I'm not gonna I probably just will talk about it.
She'll probably mention the name, like, of the author and then just...
So 1NC versus high school immigration, or?
No, high school immigration plus F plus neg combined.
We're gonna, like, mention everything we just
Can you
talked
say
about.
that to us?
That immigrants crowd out and create a disincentive for native enrollment. Yeah.
Which file is it? What's the file called?
High school immigration F plus neg.
No, it's not that. It's called, like, I just sent you, like, a text. Yeah, it's like... wait, let me see. No, it's the...
MA Zoology 16 evidence?
It's the plan, it's like it's this one. Like this document? Oh, okay. Yeah.
Everyone ready?
What's the order?
I'm gonna talk about their case, and then the nationalism, like the cafe, and then or the case, and then I'm just gonna end.
Okay.
So their first point was about innovation and how immigrants bring innovation, and since we're losing international students, we're going to lose the economy. But let's say immigrants help the economy, right? And it helps with economic growth, but but there's not enough inventions they can make, there's not enough money that immigrants can generate to possibly warrant a nuclear war, to warrant the end of humanity. Because as I said in my last speech, lives should always go over economy and always go before money. They also said that that fast growth is important and that without growth we cannot exist. But their plan increases backlogs because it would make more immigrants want to, which would create a bigger influx of immigrants, which would create more backlogs. So that's not fast growth at all. That will actually make growth slower. So if you want fast growth, that's why you should prefer the temporary CP, because immigrants would be going back, which would make more slots open. They also said that they kept saying capitalism is good, fine, we agreed that wasn't what we brought up. Our TAPK was saying that nationalism is bad, and that nationalism is what their entire CAF is built up off, and nationalism is inherent in their case. We weren't talking about capitalism, we were talking about nationalism and how saying they have to stay here permanently and not go back and help their countries is bad, and that's saying that America is first and that America's economy is important over everything. That's what we were saying is inherent in their case, not capitalism. They also said that they said in their last speech to vote AF because it helps immigrants in need. Maybe it helps a few immigrants that they're letting come here, but what about the immigrants' countries? What about the rest of the globe? They say we want to vote AF because it helps immigrants in need. Vote con because it helps the immigrants in need and their countries. So now they care about the immigrants. If they actually cared about the immigrants, they would want the immigrant to be here temporarily and then go back and help create and innovate and invent for their countries, so everyone can survive and everyone can be happy in economic growth, not just America. They refuted our base DA by multiple ways. So first they said we shouldn't disregard the plan just because conservatives are mad, just because the base would be mad, but we definitely should, because if the base is mad, it's what this anger leads to. This anger can lead to Trump needing to find a way to needing to find a way to distract his base, which would lead to a nuclear war. And they said that he could just tweet, but he could have tweeted for other things, for smaller things in the past, but this is what he has been pushing throughout his entire campaign, so this is going to be big, and this is probably the one thing that his base won't let slide. They also refuted our base DA by saying steps he has to take are hard, it would set off alarms, and there's an enormous effort of persuasion. That's obvious. Of course it's hard to wage a nuclear war, but that doesn't mean it's completely impossible, and that doesn't mean there's no probability. Even if there's a small chance of it happening and the probability is very slim, it's still, the magnitude is still so huge that we need that probability to be zero. Do you feel safe if the probability for a nuclear war, for continents being disintegrated, is small? There should be a probability of zero, and that is what the temporary CP aims to fix. They also say that immigrants would improve the economy, so the base would be happy. If the base is happy with immigrants, like they put it, the base is happy with immigrants, then why did they vote for Trump? Why did they vote for a man whose entire campaign was built off of keeping immigrants out? They say that they want merit immigrants versus high-skilled immigrants, but we're saying that Trump's base would be against most and all types of immigration. We're not counting asylum and refugees. We're just saying people immigrating here for work, because why would the base be happy about something going against what they voted for the guy on? They also said that, they just talked about fast growth, and we said the enrollment declines, and we said the enrollment declines because of native enrollment, and they refuted this by saying we would increase program size, but the people going in those programs would just be immigrants, more immigrants, the more immigrants that are coming in because more people want to, not the natives, so that doesn't solve anything. And now I'm just going to impact the debate. So our plan, the temporary CP, solves their case, solves everything in their case, and without the disadvantage of a nuclear war. So not only are we solving innovation and solving economic growth because we're able to educate our own people and have economic growth and innovation around the globe, but we're also stopping a nuclear war, stopping the chances of all of us dying, and we're helping the globe innovate, and we're helping everyone just have economic growth and things like that, because we believe that it's better to help. If you can help the entire world, why would you just stop at helping America? And their plan doesn't even help America pointedly. So that's just why you should vote for.
I don't know. You all should be
We've
time
only
yourselves.
used prep time once before the 2AC.
One AR student.
Oh yeah, we use, so that's,
2 minutes, 2 minutes.
so yeah, we're at 4 minutes left. Okay, we'll use our prep time.
Okay.
I'm still not timing, like, I really would like you all
I
to
thought
time
you
yourself.
were
No.
I'm pretty sure it's over, so just go.
Wait, Michelle, do you need this?
So no, I think it's- Um, 5-minute timer?
Yeah.
Okay. Repeating evidence from the 2AC. Permutation, do the CP legal immigration plan and include temporary status. Legal immigrant population is defined as people granted legal permanent residence, granted asylum, people admitted as refugees, and people admitted under a specific authorized temporary status. This group includes legal temporary migrants, including students, diplomats, and high-tech guest workers who are allowed to live and work for longer than 1 year. These definitions reflect standard usage by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and academic researchers. My opponent completely dropped this argument, and this is one of the most important arguments, and therefore another reason you should vote for the app. Also, about my opponent's Cap K, it's about nationalism and not capitalism. Therefore, it's not a Cap K and very misleading. That's it.
Y'all ended your speech?
Yeah.
Oh,
That was the last one. That was the 2
yeah. Of course, thanks for debating.
I'm not judging, so I was just watching them.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for judging.
Yeah, if you all want to stick around for like a minute or two, I have some like general comments that I
That'd be
can
really
make.
great.
I'm not gonna disclose right away, but, I think, first of all, this has less to do with the substance, but more with the form. I like both teams, it's just like good practice and debate to time themselves and their opponents in both their prep time and their speech time. Like I'm pretty sure both teams use twice as much prep as they were supposed to. I didn't like specifically point it out because I thought it was fairly equitable, and like I don't think anyone was gaining any specific strategic advantage from it, but like it's still bad, so probably don't do that. Like when you say when you're gonna start and stop prep, like don't tell me how much time you're taking, just like keep running total, and then like make sure you're done once you say you're done. Also like make sure you know how to send out docs if you're sending out docs. Other than that seems fine. It's just nice because it means that we can get out of here earlier. As far as the actual debate went, I thought it was pretty good. I thought like the class itself was pretty good. I thought that it was a little disorganized. It's hard to tell what flow we were on, but I think both effective road math. still a debate argument, and so I still try to evaluate it. But yeah, make sure you all are trying to warrant out things and trying to extend evidence and arguments as much as you can. But overall, I thought both teams did a pretty solid job of getting at least the basics of the arguments across in the debate. Although a 30-second 2AR is probably not the best thing to have. You probably at least want to have a little bit more case extension in your 2AR. Just at the very least, repeat and re-summarize your case. Like that's a pretty good thing to just have, even if you have nothing else to say. You build speech time. It's also good to make sure that that's always in your 2AR. But yeah, good debate. If anyone has any specific questions now, they can ask them. If you think of any, or once you see my decision and comments on tab, you can also email me, I think. That's my email right there. So yeah, any questions, everyone?
Thanks.
Alright.
Thank you.
Yep, good luck in future endeavors.
Hey, so Nathan, Michelle, let's go talk about